seems like things are happening now at a very rampant rate. I mean, it's happening so fast that you don't know when the next atrocity is going to come. You don't know when the next devastation is going to come. You have no idea. But what we do know is that we're seeing an increase of these events. But what's not really being talked about when you listen to people, nobody's really saying why these things are happening. Nobody's really dealing with that part of the subject. When you look around you today and you look at a country like the United States of America, and you look at how she used to dominate in so many areas, Brother Muhammad. She dominated in so many areas that you can't even start to name them. But the fact of the matter is, when you turn around and look at some of those areas that she was dominating in, she doesn't dominate in those areas anymore. I think most of us will agree that America is losing grip. She's losing a lot of her power. Nobody will dispute that. Most scholars that are writing today are writing extensively about the loss of power that we see happening right in the United States of America. There are things happening in America today, and we have no clue how they're happening. For example, no one would have ever guessed in 2008, when President Barack Obama became president, if you were to look back 3 years, or even before he first started to run, no one would have said he was going to win the election. Because he comes from out of nowhere. He served as senator in Chicago for 2 years. He broke the mold. The first time in modern history that a president had black lineage. First time, right? So no one would have speculated and said that he was going to be president. Same thing happened recently with President Donald Trump. No one would have ever imagined that President Donald Trump would be the president of the United States of America. Number one, because he has no political roots. He was not a politician. But all of a sudden, this man came on the scene and he became president. Everybody was cheering, hoping that he won the Republican nomination. All the Democrats wanted him to win because they felt like it would be an easy win for the Democrats. He won the Republican nomination and became president of the United States. What am I telling you? Unusual things are happening all throughout the world. Things are happening and we don't really fully understand what's driving these things to happen. I'll give you another example, then I'll move on. When we look at nature today, for 17 years now, I personally have been tracking the weather in December, the weather patterns in December, for 17 years. On average, we'll have 14 days in December that's greater than 75 degrees. On average. There's some days in December that the weather has reached 80 degrees. You can practically walk around with shorts on in the month of December. This is unusual, Brother Muhammad. These are unusual things that are happening right before our eyes, but nobody is stopping to say what's driving it. Why is it happening? Well, that leads me to my title today. But before I go there, let me say one last thing. For the first time in the history of the world, young people, when I say young, I'm talking 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, know more about a subject matter than the parents do. Young people are running circles around parents with the computer. Never have you seen that, where the children know more about the parents on a particular subject matter. See, all of those things mean something. The scripture said, on God's return, he will come like a thief in the night. That doesn't mean he's coming to steal. It simply means that he will come without observation. We're in a time where things are happening, Jason, and nobody is observing it before it happens. You might walk out today, it's sunny outside, and the next day it's snowing. These are the kind of things that we have happening, but let's get into the subject matter. The subject matter today is America's silent death. And then I pose the question, can she survive? America's silent death. Can she survive? What I'm saying, Stuart, is that America is dying. Now, we can say, because right now we all eat every day, right? We got food, we got our vehicles, we got gas, we got money in the bank. So things seem normal. But when you look at the real signs of a person's livelihood, when you start looking at the physical signs of the human body, you can project and discern and calculate what's happening. You can calculate and determine the longevity of the life based upon the appearance of the individual.
Right.
Right? We can see these things. But what is the appearance of America, Michael? Why does she look the way she looks today? Why is it that when you look at math and science, who used to rule the world? Lead the world in math and science? America did. Nobody would dispute that. We led the world in math and science, period. Nobody would dispute that. But did you know today, America is number 30 in math and 19 in science? 30 in math and 19 in science. What does that mean? That means that the power that she once stored, the power that she once had, is dwindling. We can measure the longevity, we can measure the progression of a nation by math and science alone.
Right.
How good they are in those particular subjects will determine the livelihood or the likelihood or the longevity of that nation. Just as in the 3rd grade, based upon disciplinary acts, they know how many prisons to build.
Right.
It ain't no different when you look at these statistics. America is dying, man, and we can see the signs. We can see the symptoms, but we don't fully understand the cause. Now look at this. Now she was once leading in math and science. When you look at her mathematically today, scientifically today, 30 in math, 19 in science, what's happening that she's failing? Our kids, when they took these tests in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and you stack them up against the rest of the world, we lead. But we're not leading anymore. Why is that? These are the kind of things that we have to deal with on today. Look at her political system. It's always been crumbling, but now it's falling apart unlike ever in any time in the history of this country. You got a president now that tweets more than he does anything. And every time he tweets, he put his foot in his mouth. Okay, no problem. America used to lead the world politically, Jason. If people were looking for directions in terms of how to go politically, how to set up their governments, all of the world looked to America. Before they looked to America, before Rome was founded, before Britain, before Greece, they would look to Egypt, the ancient Egypt. But now today, historically, people have continued to look to the United States of America for their government. Many constitutions around the world are set up based upon the Constitution of the American government. Now, where am I going with this? I am telling you that the world is no longer looking to her. I am telling you that the world is getting away from America, and as a result of that, America is dying. Because America cannot survive if the rest of the world is no longer dependent upon her. So the world, Brother Muhammad, is breaking its dependence from the United States of America. So America is dying, but no one is truly talking about it. Now, economically, she still dominates the world. America can boast today, brother, to a gross national product of about $16 trillion. $16 trillion. This is about what she does a year. The next country close to her does half that amount. China does about $8 trillion. China is speculated will surpass America by 2042. Some analysts say less than that. It was in the 90s, in the early 2000s. Silicon Valley had the 3rd largest economy in the world, Stuart. The 3rd largest economy in the world, Silicon Valley, which is in California. Silicon Valley alone, California alone had the 3rd largest economy in the world. But now California's economy is around number 10. This was just a few years ago. What I'm trying to show you is that America is dying and nobody is talking about it. It's a silent death that she's suffering from. But there's a reason why she's dying, and we're going to open that can up today as well. So what I'm showing you is that the economy, although right now she still dominates the world economy by about 30%. She still dominates all the world economy. You can't go in some countries and buy product without the American dollar. It used to be that you couldn't buy oil from Saudi Arabia unless you had the American dollar. But do you know that's changing now? I'm going to show you in a second. All of that's changing now, brother. And that's changing because America is dying. But it's also changing because America has been unjust on the world market. And this is why you would get a tyrant like Kim Jong-un and his father Kim Jong-il in North Korea that spends their entire life trying to break the United States military and government and people down to zero. This is a tough day, but we can't run away from it. We have to face it and understand what's going on. Let's go further. So the economy. We used to boast to having the strongest economy, and we still have it for now. When you look at the raw numbers, we have it. But when you look at it technically, we don't have it. Because our largest trading partner is who? China. China controls everything coming into America now. You even get your food from China. You don't realize it. 85% of all seafood that you consume come from China. 85% of it. Now, what does that mean? That means that you no longer control your food. Now, if you're no longer controlling your food, that means that you can't say what's going in your food. How many of you heard about different contaminations coming across here? Toothpaste, lead, toys, lead. Is it accidental? These are the kind of questions we got to ask ourselves, right? So, is China really our ally or are they our enemy? Well, I'll say that wrong. Is China the ally to America or is China America's enemy, right? We got to ask these questions. You decide. Let's keep rolling. So what I'm showing you is that although we have the largest economy dollar-wise, we don't have the largest economy technically because we don't control our economy. And what I mean by that is simply that most of our products, Tony, are coming from offshore. You go into supermarkets, you pick up the labels and tags, hardly anything in the supermarket is made in the United States. You look at your clothes that you're wearing, most of what you're wearing is not made in the United States of America. Manufacturing has left these shores. Most of the computer chips that are built today are not built in Silicon Valley anymore. They're not built in Silicon Valley anymore. These products are being built in China and then shipped over to the United States of America because we can't compete with the prices that the Chinese are putting on these products once they're manufactured. So the biggest problem is that we don't have labor pools cheap enough to compete with the Chinese. And because we don't have labor pools cheap enough to compete with the Chinese are outrunning us. So we can say, when I forgot the president's name of, I want to say Khrushchev. His name is Kekny. But he said that we'll march down Pennsylvania Avenue without firing a weapon. That means that they would have so much control in the United States of America that they wouldn't have to fire a weapon. I forgot his name. It escapes me, but he made the comment in the 70s. But now, check this out. Russia may not be doing it directly. But when Russia joins on with China, and they have, and I'll get into that in a second, they will be able to march down Pennsylvania Avenue without firing any weapons because they have that much control in the United States of America. Right now, today, family, we got some stuff that we have to really contend with. When you start looking at manufacturing, you can measure the power of a nation based upon its manufacturing. The automobile industry is no longer the greatest here, it's overseas. The computer chip technology industry is no longer greater here, it's overseas. Most of our advanced engineers that we have at these large companies in Silicon Valley are foreigners. Now I can say that because I spent 30 years in Silicon Valley, in and out of Silicon Valley. I spent 30 years right there in the hub, and I can tell you that the majority of the high-level engineers that are dealing with computer chip technology are foreigners. The majority of them are. I would venture out and say 80% of them are foreigners. And do you know why? It's simple. The reason why is because when you start looking at math and science, It goes right to the heart of technology. Right here, math and science. You're 30 and 19 respectively. Now, when you start looking at manufacturing of computer chip technology and the sciences, and you're not accelerating in math and science, that means that the graduates that you're graduating won't be competent enough in this area. And this is what we're seeing. This is why you see something called STEM programs popping up all across the United States of America. They're popping up because it's necessary in order for us to continue to compete with India and China. Let's look at some things real quick. Y'all okay? Yeah. So when we look at manufacturing, let's take it a step further. Look at this, Brother Muhammad. So right now, the largest retailer in the world is who? Walmart. Walmart is the largest retailer in the world, Sister Soleil. Now, if Walmart is the largest retailer in the world, what does that mean? You can measure the strength of Walmart by where it's getting its products from. Where is Walmart getting its products? China. Walmart gets its products from China. 95% of all Walmart's products come from China. What does that mean? That means that when Walmart sets up shop, local hardware stores do what? They fold. Local grocery stores fold. Walmart now is focusing on building something called super grocery stores. And the importance of that is that the small grocery stores will fold. Now, if Walmart is getting 95% of its products from China, who's controlling your livelihood? China is. Ain't no getting around that, because China can make the decision, Brother Muhammad. In 5 years now, once they get you buying all these products from Walmart, in 5 years, China can say, I ain't shipping to Walmart no more. And what you gonna do? You can't do nothing. Imagine in a major city, if the Walmart's closed down. Imagine Walmart now, not today, but 3 to 5 years from now, how all of our groceries, the majority of them, will be coming from Walmart. How all of our major supplies that we normally would get from hardware stores will be coming from Walmart. Imagine in 5 years, if China decides to pull the chain on Walmart. What does that say about you? Especially you, meaning black people. We don't farm anymore. We don't own any farms hardly anymore. Maybe a few here and there. We don't own the levels of land that we used to own in this country anymore. Maybe a few here and there. Most blacks don't even want to be associated with farming anymore. But farming is going to be the gold of the future, man. Especially organic farming. Because most of the stuff that you get here now is no good for you. Y'all okay, right? Let's look at this thing that's a little bit further. So when you don't control the manufacturing, it's over. And if 95% of all Walmart's product, if 95% of all Walmart's product are coming from overseas, specifically China, what does that say about us as a people? We're doomed, brother. When I say America is dying, look, when we say America is dying, America's silent death, can she survive? These are the questions that we have to ask ourselves, right? Can she survive? So look at this. Let's keep rolling. Any questions? Okay, good. Now let's look down at the military. She still has the strongest military in the world. She still has that. Ain't nobody going to argue with that. She's a beast when it comes to military. Now you can forget that. Now you can mess around and hit the wrong button if you want to. And speaking of beasts, now I told y'all about 4 months ago. 4 months ago, America was going to bomb Korea. Now she hasn't done it yet, but she's on her way. You can rest assured on that one. She's going to bomb Korea just as sure as you sitting in your chair. She's going to get Korea. And Kim Jong-un, he's expedited the process. Donald Trump, he's expedited the process. America is going to bomb North Korea. And after she bombs North Korea, Stuart, it's going to lead us into Syria. And after we go into Syria, Israel is going to be in the midst. All out war in that region. Listen, Korean, when America bombs Korea, it's going to lead all the way back to Syria. Once she's in Syria, Israel comes in the fold. This is what we have to look at. So now when you go and bomb these small countries like North Korea, who's trying to do everything they can to get at the negotiating table, all they want is a voice. They want to be heard. And you know the only way, Stuart, you can be heard in this world today is that you got to have a nuclear weapon. If you don't own a nuclear weapon, you cannot be heard. If you don't own a nuclear weapon, you don't have no power, you don't have no voice, you don't But what's happening in this world today is that if you don't have a nuclear weapon, you cannot vote. You don't have any power. The only power that's given today is if you want to have a nuclear weapon. Nobody wants to hear what you got to say unless you can say to them, I can reach your country with nuclear power. See, this is what happens when the unrighteous rule. When the unrighteous rule, the only thing you produce is unrighteousness. That's it. Right. Book of Job, chapter 9, verse 24. God has turned the earth over into the hands of the wicked. The wicked is ruling. So therefore, the only thing that the wicked is producing is wickedness, unrighteousness. And because you're producing wickedness and unrighteousness, God is going to have his wrath with you today, man. And this is where we are as a nation. Any questions so far? Everybody good? Okay, good. So now, what are we getting at? Manufacturing, gone. Forget it. Military. The only thing that's holding us up right now is the military. We spend more money on military research and science than any other nation on the face of the earth. We fought more wars. We got our militaries in more countries than any other nation on the face of the earth. We do as a collective, the United States of America. And there's no getting around that. But the reason why is because we are also, some have been involved with some of the biggest terrorist activities than any other nation on the face of the earth. We have, as a country. Now, for those of you that dispute that, I can tell you one of the biggest terrorist acts in this country is when the slaves were kidnapped and brought here as slaves and destroyed. That was a terrorist act, right or wrong? We see the same thing happening in other nations. Look at Africa right now, 54 countries in Africa, second largest continent in the world. Why is it not being ruled by Africans? These are the things that we have to ask ourselves. Why is Africa not being ruled by Africans? Speaking of Africans, peace family. Why is Africa not being ruled by Africans? They're not being ruled by Africans because of levels of terrorism that's associated with what's going on that continent today. So now, if we understand that America's manufacturing is no longer here, Cole. All the manufacturing for the United States of America is being handled by China, the majority of it. About 95% of all Walmart's products are coming from overseas, coming from China. Walmart is the biggest retailer on the earth. Walmart is. But the majority of its products, again, are coming from China. So my question to you today, in 5 years, when every city within 10 miles or so will have a Walmart as a major resource center, all your groceries, Walmart, all your hardware supplies, Walmart. When Walmart is dominating to that level and China decides to no longer supply Walmart, what happens to you? Well, let me tell you real quick, you die. You know why? Because you don't know how to farm. You don't know how to fend for yourself. You're failing in math and science. The country is as a whole. So because you can't understand this right here, you're dying. And one of the worst things that we have done to our children as a church in particular is that we don't have these programs set up. When you look at the rulers of the world, I don't care where they are, you'll find that they have an extensive math and science background. Period. These are the people that rule the world. These are the nations that rule the world. The reason why China is ruling like she's ruling is because she's got children that are graduating with math and science degrees. And no offense for those of you that are listening. No, I don't want to get into that. We study criminal justice. No offense. I don't mean no harm for those of you that study that subject. I don't mean any harm. Liberal arts. I don't mean any harm. I'm just telling you that we got to re-examine how we're looking at things, right? We got to re-examine how do we move our people forward as a nation. Then we got to get those skills that will allow us to do that. Period. Not knocking anything. So now look at this. Military, look at the dollar now. The dollar is continuing to be devalued. My subject today is America's silent death. And my subtitle is, can she survive? Can she survive? And the answer is what? No, she can't survive. She cannot survive. It's doomed. It's bound to happen. Our ancestors prayed, wrote about this thing extensively in most of the prophecies in the Bible. Now look at this. The question is, can she survive? And you already know the answer. Look, the dollar. The dollar, family, is gone. America's debt right now is $20 trillion and climbing. Climbing at a high rate. Right now, we're getting ready to enter into something called hyperinflation. I want you to listen for a second. Russia and China are negotiating with Saudi Arabia, Iran, countries that produce oil, Nigeria. Listen, 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 listen. China has told Saudi Arabia that they will no longer buy oil with the American dollar. When you buy oil, Coach, with the American dollar, it's called the petrodollar. The petrodollar is the currency that's used throughout the world to purchase oil. Well, the petrodollar is the American currency. But now what China is saying, they surpassed in 2016 United States with oil purchases and consumption. And America is an oil addict, an oil junkie. She's strung out on oil. China has surpassed her. China has told Saudi Arabia, look, we will not purchase any more oil with the American dollar, which is called the petrodollar. If we can't use the Chinese yuan, we will not purchase it. Then they went and knocked on Russia's door. Will you join us? Then they knocked on Iran's door. Will you join us? All of these countries now are signing up for this, but watch this. China is backing its yuan in silver and gold. In silver and gold. Do you know the American dollar is no longer tied to silver and gold? Do you know it's just a piece of paper? Do you know that it has absolutely no value? And because it has no value, they print. That's it. Yeah. Now all of those dollars that are overseas, they're calling for their money. They're sending the dollars back to America, creating hyperinflation. And now America cannot pay that debt. So what happens? She dies because she can't satisfy the debts unless she create war. Now watch this. So now when we look at this thing, this dollar has no connection with gold whatsoever. China went to the UN in 2008, went again in 2014. Look, let us be the major currency. We're back in silver and gold. Listen, Gaddafi, right? Assassinated. He had said, you can only purchase oil if you use what? Gold. Saddam Hussein, you can only purchase oil if you use gold. This was spreading in Africa. Throughout the entire continent, it was spreading, and people were saying, Kof, that this is the only thing that makes sense. If you buy something using a dollar, the dollar should have some value outside of paper. So these men said, you know what, you're right. Gold is the standard. If you can't support the currency in gold, forget it. This is the only way you will be able to buy our oil. So where's Saddam Hussein? He dead. Where's Gaddafi? They're dead, right? Now, the fear in all of this is that America's death could have been prevented. But the scripture will show us in a second that she's too far gone now. Ain't no turning back. Death is on the scene. So what am I telling you? The dollar has no connection with gold. So therefore the dollar has no value. If the dollar is the currency of this country and it can't be tied to gold or silver, then that means that the dollar will collapse on its own. Right now, today, still, we're borrowing the majority of our money. When you look at the top two nations, is China and Japan. $2 billion every single day. Every single day. Can you imagine? $2 billion every single day. Every time you turn around, every year, what has to happen? The debt ceiling has to be raised. In other words, we have to allow for more debt so that we can continue to borrow money on debt that we cannot pay. We're running a deficit now of nearly $4 trillion. So there's absolutely no way that we can correct this. All it would do is get bigger and bigger and wider before she collapsed. The balloon is due to burst any day. Look at this. Look at this. Now, why was America able to maintain its wealth for so long? You got it. Look at this. Plain as day. Plain as day. Slavery. America built her wealth on slavery. Cheap labor. No cost. That's how she built her wealth, sir. The slaves weren't getting paid. So America had a chance to grow at a rate that other nations couldn't grow to because of all the cheap labor that was going on. Your and my ancestors. See, technically we can say we own this country. Technically we can't, because it's our sweat, blood, tears, and labor that have gone in the form of sweat equity. We got more sweat equity in this nation than anybody does. And we're treated worse than anybody is treated. We can safely say we own America. This is our country. We can say it for a number of reasons. One of the reasons being we were here before anybody else was here anyway. But then when they brought us here as slaves is when we put in all this labor in this country and never got paid for it. So now we know America built her wealth on slavery. And it allowed her to be number one in terms of world economy now for 152 years. Based on slaves being supposedly freed in 1865. 152 years America has enjoyed and celebrated in wealth as a result of your and my ancestors. Bottom line, ain't no way around that. Any questions so far? Now, let's keep rolling. Let's keep rolling. America is dying a silent death, Sister Doty. She's sick. She's throwing up all over the world. Every time she turns, she's breaking out in deep sweats. She's hurting. And she knows that she's hurting. People are becoming desperate. There's more debt in the United States as individuals than any other time in the history of this country. More individual debt. Most people in this country are living off of credit cards or some type of small loan. Fact, bottom line, most people are. The majority of the people in this country, they say, are 2 paychecks away from being homeless. Can you imagine? That means that when you look in your bank account, if your rent is $600 a month, you don't have $1,200 in your bank account. You have less than $1,200 in your bank account. You're 2 paychecks away from being homeless. The majority of the country is like that. She's in trouble is what I'm trying to show you. But the question is, why is she in such trouble? That's the question. And then the next question is, can she survive? What does God have to do with this? Yes. What role does God play in the destruction of the United States of America? Is he on the scene? What did our ancestors have to say about America and God? What did they have to say? What were the prayers of the slaves that were being thrown off the ships when they were coming here? What were the prayers of the mothers when they saw their young boys being hanged from trees? What were the prayers of the young children when they heard their mothers being raped by this wicked slave master? What were their prayers? And then if God is really God, when will their prayers be answered? Let me show you. Look at this. Look at the weather patterns in this country. She's in trouble, man. The Bible says, be still. I will make your enemy your footstool. This is an old African proverb. And it does not just apply to country. It applies to individual. Be still. I, God, will make your enemy your footstool. That means that nature has the ability to correct all injustices and unrighteousness. Right. Let me show you. Nobody would dispute the fact that we were in chattel slavery from 1619 to 1865. Nobody would dispute that. And then nobody would dispute the fact that we're still psychologically slaves. Nobody would dispute that. Nobody would dispute that 2019 marks the 400-year mark for us in terms of slavery. Nobody would dispute that. Nobody will. And that was an extreme injustice that was brought upon us. But watch this. How many of you fought in the war that freed us? Raise your hand if you fought in it. How many of you heard of the war that we fought that freed us? Well, what's the name of the war? The Civil War. No, sir. I mean, okay, yeah. All right, technically you can make that argument. But I want to make a correction. They teach us that the Civil War was fought to free the slaves. That's a lie. Right? This is what you're taught. No problem. Then they say it was fought to preserve the Unions. Okay, partly right. But the fact of the matter is the Civil War was fought because they were being taxed, and not represented in the South. So it was taxation without representation, which is the reason why they went to battle. Now, look at this. Now, name another war that you think freed you. Right, exactly. You can't. Your freedom was silent. When the scripture says, be still, I'll make your enemy your footstool, the I that's talking is God. So God is saying, be still, I make the enemy your footstool. So here it is, we come up out of slavery, Brother Muhammad. How many weapons did you fight to come up out of slavery? None, right? How many Molotov cocktails did you throw? None. How many of the enemy's houses did you burn down? None. 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 What does this mean? That God is on the scene. How can you obtain your freedom without firing weapons? How can you do that? And then furthermore, I want to ask you another question. If you didn't fire any weapons, is it written of in the scripture? Of course it is. How did our ancestors know about this? How did our ancestors know that we were going to go into captivity for 400 years? How did they know? They had a relationship with the God of the universe. They were God of the universe, and they understood the significance of being one with the universe, and they used that to prophesy, and they wrote it in the book that you call Bible. They scribed it on the pyramid walls. It's also in the Holy Quran. It's in all the spiritual books. Our ancestors had that kind of vision, Cole. This is the kind of vision that they had. Now, in understanding that, what am I getting at? This is what I'm getting at with you. The weather patterns. They real, man. And they're picking up. America debt is already high, Grace. The storms and devastations that we saw with Katrina, that we saw in Houston, that we saw on the East Coast, is causing America's debt to be increased astronomically. All of this is causing her suffering. The plagues that we read about in the Bible as it relates to Pharaoh are now in the United States of America. Just as God sent a warner to Pharaoh, he also sent a warner to the United States of America. He continued to warn the United States of America. Now, I don't want you to get spooked-ified, but the fact of the matter is that these weather patterns, if they continue like they continue, the weather patterns alone will break this country. The weather patterns alone. Now, we saw a bit of prophecy real quick. But we know that North Carolina is going to get it. She didn't get it last time. The storm turned right out of Florida, exiting Florida, turned west. Now, many people were saying that it was on pace to hit North Carolina. But she made a left turn, sparing North Carolina. Now you got a few days to pull things together. You got a few days now to get things in order. For example, if a major disaster were to come to Hereford, North Carolina right now, those of you that live in Hereford, what would you do? You don't even know. No offense. Elizabeth City, Ahoskie, Edenton, all the surrounding areas, you don't know what to do. You don't know how to purify water. You don't know where to go. You don't even know how to hunt anymore. You don't know how to make fires. None of these things do you know. Now, every black community has about 150 black churches on every corner. Every black community. If you don't have anything else, you got black churches. Excuse my language. Negro, you don't own any businesses. You don't own any land. You don't own any farms. You don't own any car dealerships. You don't own any manufacturing, but you got churches. Those churches will have to become our safe houses. Those churches will have to become places where we store our bottled water, our dried foods, our canned goods. Those things have to be stored in the church. Now you think the church is for the preacher. It's not. He's being tricked himself. The preachers have made the churches about them, but God knew that these storms were coming. So he had already laid this out and planned this. Your recovery center will have to be the church. So now what we have to do, those of you that are going to church, you're going to have to develop a relationship with your preacher. And he's going to have to come to understand that the church has to be a safe haven for the people. Especially in areas like this where you have severe flooding. It wasn't but just a couple years ago that we had major flooding on the back street in this area. Churches will also have their own raft system. Some type of boating systems churches will have their own, churches are going to have their own. We can't expect Brother Muhammad to boat all the people all across the world. We can't expect Brother Kaffa to come in and boat people. We got to be able to go right to the churches, and the churches have access to our people. The churches also will have to figure out who has special medication that's going to be needed during these times. These are the kind of things that we're going to have to expect out of the churches, because this day is right around the corner, and North Carolina will not be spared next time. She's going to get it. And so we have to be able to do things. Let me keep going. Any questions so far? Any questions or comments so far? Okay, good. You all right, Coach? Okay, good. Let's look at this thing a little bit further. So we talked about math and science, Coach, right before you came here. And look at this. The National Academies report points out that China and India combined graduate 950,000 engineers every year, compared to 70,000 in America. Let's stop. How can you compare? How can you compare, Dr. Dodo?
Even the 70,000 in America are mostly Indian.
Absolutely. Most of the 70,000 are foreigners, Indian, Chinese, right? So we can say that the majority of the world's engineers are going to be coming from Asia, period. The majority of them, right? Now, so when we look at this, 950,000 compared to 70,000, less than 10%, almost around 6.5%, 7%, a little bit more than 7% of the world's engineers are coming out of the United States of America. And then of that 7% or so, the majority of them are not from the United States of America. So when I say America is dying a silent death, look, she can't compete like this. But what does that say about you?
I would say that's our design.
Huh?
I would say that's our design.
Okay, well, who's designing it? Give me some insight.
I would say that's by design from the country, because they want us to be slaves. Because they want the citizens of America to really be slaves to keep America. Because we are going to be how they pay the debt off.
But Stuart, those people that you might be talking about got children and grandchildren, bro.
Let me tell you something. They're looking at it as we're going to pay the debt off. Like we're going to be the pawns to pay the debt off to China.
Stuart, we can't pay this debt off.
It's not going to be by money. It's going to be by labor.
Okay. All right. Well, I want you to go into that. Maybe you can bring that lecture. All right. So let's go here with this. Look at this. And look, it says we need to take a long, hard look in the mirror and realize that it's not a good thing that we are the #1 in divorce. Here's what we lead at. Here's what we lead at. We're #1 in divorce. Where is it? #1 in divorce. That's us. The country as a whole, but black people, you #1 in the country. Drug addiction. That's us. We're #1 in drug addiction. Now, not all of this is our fault, but the fact of the matter is we're #1, right? And I know you see the disparities right now between heroin and crack cocaine. As you see billboards all across the United States now advocating and helping people get off heroin. Because the majority of people now that's getting addicted to heroin are white people. But when crack cocaine was devastating our communities in the 80s and 90s, they were sending us to jail. Now they're trying to make heroin addicts a mental, physical, biological disorder, and you can get disability, go sent to a clinic, get rehabilitated, but they locked us up. See, they got to pay for that. Are y'all listening? See, you can't get away with that stuff and then think there are not going to be any repercussions following it. You can't get away from that when we come from a line of spiritual people who understand the Spirit of God and how it works. You cannot get away, man. God is going to have his way with you because of what you've done. And I'll show you in the Bible. Yes, ma'am, sister. You had a question?
I was just wondering, where were you getting your statistics from?
Where I get my statistics
In
from?
regards to us being number one in this and number one in that drug addiction.
Oh, I mean, it's look, I mean, I got so many sources that I can't name them. I apologize. I don't normally necessarily cite my sources, but if you go, anybody can go on the internet now and just Google these things and they'll come right up. They'll come right up. They're there. You know, and so I can bring my sources back. I don't write them down. Look, I got a whole line of books right here. A whole line of books. And any of these books can give me those stats. All right, but what I'll do the next time is that I'll write that down. But all you have to do, those of you that are internet savvy, just go on the internet and Google these things and confirm it. Is there another question or comment? Yes, go ahead, brother.
I would like to say that one of the problems is greed, the selfishness of the rulers of this country. They're putting their trust in the dollar, like it's this paper. And they talking about like that, say run the ticket, it's like running the Mexican out of the country. Who's going to rebuild Houston? Who's going to rebuild Florida? And these people are the ones that's basically dominating the trades of construction. So now Trump is using his language of talking about putting them out.
Yeah.
Because he got to realize the paper dollar ain't going to build them houses back.
Right.
Paper ain't going to rebuild Florida.
That's right.
You need human beings to be able to get them to do this. So this is what they've done. They got blinded by that paper. And the food is being raised by the Mexicans. And what we do here. So because they're blinding themselves.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments before I move on? Sister, do you have another comment from your last one? Yeah, so, okay, good. So, this is the dollar. Sink it. She ain't no good no more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she gone. I can tell you, those of you that are here right now, that if you have money and lots of it, you want to invest in tangible things.
Yeah.
Real estate, gold, silver, things like that. You want to invest perhaps even in some, and you really want to start breaking into Africa. And specifically, when we look at a resource like tantalum, for example, who got a smartphone? All of the computer chips in the smartphone now are tantalum based. The largest hub for tantalum is around Uganda, is that right?
It's Congo.
Congo, same area. About 90-some% of all the tantalum comes out of the Congo area. About the other 10% comes out of Russia. Those of us that are looking to invest, this is where you want to invest. You want to start investing back in Africa anyway, on tangible things. Look, so right now when we look at it, if the dollar has no value, and it doesn't, the dollar is just a piece of paper, you know, and this thing has no real value, then we need to stop looking. I'm going to give you another piece of prophecy right now. The government is going to have a major layoff within the next 2 to 3 years. Thousands of people, the largest layoff ever in the history of the country. Those of you that are receiving military benefits, those of you that are thinking you're going to be receiving Social Security, a lot of that stuff is going to be cut. Your raises will come to a halt. I'm just telling you what's happening. You know why I know this? Because I understand how the economy works. We have absolutely no choice. It has to get money from somewhere. And when other countries start calling in that debt, they will make all kinds of cuts. All kinds of cuts. They're really already silently doing them. And we have to prepare for these things. Man, I'm not just talking to be talking. I'm not just up here just uttering things to you. It ain't about that. I can be at home doing something. I'm giving you what I understand prophetically. Look at this. The dollar is sinking. China is currently modifying the terms of its oil trade with Saudi Arabia. I already told you about that. China is going into Saudi Arabia right now, telling Saudi Arabia, look, let me show you the graph real quick. China surpassed America, bro, in 2017. This green line, that's China. They surpassed America with oil purchase in 2017. China, right now, when you look at this line, China is slightly under 9 million barrels. America used to be over 9 million, almost 10 million barrels a day, right? This was happening in 2010. But now in 2017, China leaves. So China goes to Saudi Arabia, Brother Muhammad, telling Saudi Arabia, look, you can no longer use the dollar as the currency for oil. You got to use the Chinese yuan. And then China's also saying, we're backing it in silver and gold. You don't have America backing their currency with anything. Although America owns more physical gold than any other country. America is still number one. She still owns more gold. China is around number 6 or 7 in terms of gold. But what happens is that China is willing to back its yuan with silver and gold, and this country is not. And there's something that's getting ready to happen that we need to prepare for. because it's not going to be like it used to be. I mean, your monies, as we used to understand it, won't be like that anymore. It says this, one for oil. It's another step closer to the grave for the petrodollar, which has dominated global finance since 1974. Check this out. Now, we know the petrodollar has dominated. America has dominated. Its currency was the currency that was used to find oil. We get that, right? Now, but what's happening is that it's no longer dominating. So because it's no longer dominating, Stuart, that means less of America's currency is going to be in circulation. So less in circulation, less value, right? China has more yuan in circulation, greater value. But here's what they're not talking about. China is teaming up with major countries like Russia. This is war against the dollar. This is a war that's being fought against America that's a non-military style war. It's a war that's being fought with currency. China knows once she controls the currency, the United States dollar will fall. And if the United States dollars fall, America can't invest money in the military like they used to. Can't do it. America will have to be more dependent upon foreign countries. But here's the question that we have to ask ourselves. What does it mean for us? This is what we have to ask ourselves. What does it mean for us? So immediately what has to happen? We have to start shrinking our bottom line. Here's what I mean. I'm just talking to you right now, right? So if you're spending, let's say, $500 a year on, I don't know, on groceries. Let's just use that as an example. You got to cut it to $250. If you're spending money on high-end shopping, you got to cut it drastically. Right? All of these things where you're splurging and getting rid of money, you got to re-examine it. If you're going to invest, it has to be short-term. Don't invest thinking 5, 10 years down the road. Invest for immediate turnaround. A year, 6 months, 2 years. Those are the type of investments that you want to make. Your money, if you got money in retirement accounts, I want you to listen. Listen to me. I was a sucker for that. I got suckered. I can show you my paperwork. I can show you my paperwork. I got it right back here in my office. The money that I lost in my IRA. Listen, you have no control over it. It's non-tangible things that they're dealing with. Listen, I would advise you personally, I am not a licensed stockbroker, but I was a day trader for a long time. I made a lot of money day trading. I would highly recommend that you take your money off the market. Buy something tangible. Buy real estate. Buy gold. Buy something tangible. Because this dollar don't mean a damn thing anymore. And the longer you hold on to it, the worse you're going to be. Dump it. And I'm only telling you for your own protection. Get rid of it. Get your money in something tangible. Something that you can put your hands on. If you got money in a retirement account, Roth, whatever, whoever you with, look, man, you got to be smart today. Go get it, go. Go get that money and put that money on something real. I'm telling you, Brother Muhammad, get it and put it on something real. You got to do this. If you do not do it, then you're going to suffer like I suffered in the 90s. Not just like I suffered, like many people suffer. See, we understand the cycles now. And it's just a matter of days before the stock market really get hit. They're trying to entice people by saying, oh, we got these record-breaking numbers. But what they're not telling you is that companies are buying their own stock back so that it doesn't bottom out. And so what you got to be smart and do is take your money off that market. The market don't mean no good for you. Just give it a couple days. Any questions before I go on?
Yeah, somebody said, what about 401k?
401ks is the same thing. That's the stock market. Look, 401k is the stock market. Get your money off it. Listen, I am not a licensed stockbroker, okay? But at one point, I did have millions of dollars on the stock market. I got the paperwork to prove it. I am not a licensed stockbroker, I'll tell you that. But what I am telling you is somebody that loves you, get your money off the market. Get your money off the market. Put your money somewhere where it's tangible. Something that you can physically touch. If I had to recommend something, I would say gold or silver. Look, they're expecting gold to hit 2,000 within the next 6 months. They're expecting silver to top out at about 150 within the next 6 months. So what I'm saying is that get your money on something tangible. If you live in a community where houses are real cheap, go buy them. Buy them. Now, one thing I did do is I took a lot of my money early on and invested it in real estate. Even when that crash came, I still got a lot of real estate. I am saying put your money somewhere tangible. 401k, not tangible. Get rid of it. If a company takes a loss, let's say you got IBM stock, right? And let's say that IBM is involved with oil, the machines that make oil. Let's just use that. And the oil market continues to die. That means IBM stock is going to die. That means you're going to lose money. You do not want to be in that type of position. Now, again, I'm not a licensed stockbroker. I'm coming to you out of love, right? And I'm coming to you out of experience, and I'm coming to you based upon the sign of the times. Go ahead. Anybody else got another comment before I move on?
Yeah, I want to say that most of the countries in Africa, West Asia, are only dealing with the yuan, Chinese money.
Mm-hmm.
They are tying the money to the Chinese money like that.
Right.
So yes, that is to see that the dollar is now fixed
Right.
to the system. So yes, but, and I appreciate your comment on advising people to take out the money from the stock market.
Oh, absolutely.
This is something that you have looked for it, and 5 years from now, it's low money has cracked, you lose everything, and everything. So yes, it's clear that
You gotta shift it. Look, here's the other thing that's not being talked about. There's a direct attempt on the part of some countries to destroy the American dollar. We are getting ready to go through a currency reset, whether you like it or not, a global currency reset. There's some attempts being made right now to strategically destroy the American dollar, and we know China and Russia is involved. Look at this. Beyond trade in goods, within the past 6 months, Russia has set up a branch of Bank of Russia in Beijing. From there, Russia can use the Chinese yuan to buy gold on the Shanghai exchange. In a sense, Chinese-Russian oil trade is now backed up by gold standard. Yes, ma'am.
Somebody wanted to know if all our products come from China. Do they have the organic seeds? Do they come from China too?
No, well, okay, so right now, most of the seeds, as many of you know, are being controlled by who? Monsanto, right? Monsanto is controlling most of the seeds now. What happens is that China has organic markets, but China's organic market should not be trustworthy for us. Your organic markets, I don't know who asked the question, but your organic markets, you need to handle local.
Cool.
Tell Brother Pooh his organic market needs to be like Aunt Sophie used to do. Like Aunt Sophie used to grow the crop. Local fishing in the local waters. That was our food source. That was our food chain. Pooh, we need to go back the way Aunt Sophie did things. That's the way we need to do things. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
The end of September, we get our debt ceiling. We're supposed to raise the debt. So expect the end of this month for us to not raise the debt and the United States to default. Expect this to happen. The end of this month, expect this to go into default, and the government is going to shut down. Expect that to happen. Because you know, the end of September, beginning of October, they usually raise the debt.
Yeah.
They're not going to raise the debt this year. We're going to default. Watch what happens. And when we default, they're going to lower our credit rating like they've been doing the last couple of years. And that in turn is going to make the stock market go down.
Absolutely.
And your value. So if you got your money in your 401k, you're going to lose money when this happens. It happens every 2 or 3, every year. It happens. And every year we see it on TV. We understand it. But people are losing money when that happens all the time.
So does that tie hand in hand with them trying to join North and South America?
Well, I can't speak on that because I don't know. But I do know that at the end of this month we're going to be in default and they're going to shut the government down.
So moving forward, China moves a new world order, will buy oil with gold-backed currency, bypassing U.S. petrodollar. So when you buy oil now, you're using the U.S. dollar. It's called a petrodollar. But what's happening is the Chinese yuan is getting ready to take that over. This is all I want you to see. It's serious, right? And what's happening is that we're not talking about it enough. We're not dealing with these issues enough. Another thing too, and those of you that are in churches, those of you that are listening and that are gonna listen on YouTube based on the video, if you're in churches, you also want to store gas. You gotta find somewhere where you can store gas. There's gonna be a gas shortage. All of these things are coming, right? And which we're gonna show you the biblical prophecy talking about these things. But you wanna be able to store these things so that you will have resources, bottom line. Okay, what this article is talking about here is the move by the Chinese will allow oil exporting countries such as Iran, Russia to bypass U.S. sanctions by trading in yuan instead of US dollars. Did you get that? So, in other words, right now, what is the United States doing against North Korea? Imposing sanctions, right? Now, what's getting ready to happen is that the sanctions aren't going to mean anything because they can go and buy products with the with the Chinese yuan. And that China understands that. So now, by buying with the yuan, you'll be able to even bypass sanctions. Right? This is how serious this thing is. And when you do that, less dollar in circulation, continuing to devalue the dollar continuing to fall and fall and fall. This is where we are, family. Any questions or comments before I move on? That's a big move right there. That's a huge move. Let me read this again. Let me read this whole article, if you don't mind, just real quick. So in an effort to hedge against the U.S. hegemony and what could be a global game changer, the world's top oil importer, China, is preparing to denominate crude oil futures contracts in the Chinese yuan to be converted into gold. The move would allow oil exporting countries to bypass benchmarks denominated in U.S. petrodollars, creating what will almost certainly be the most critical Asian oil benchmark, according to a report by Nikkei Asian Review. Typically, crude oil is priced in relationship to Brent or West Texas Intermediate futures, both denominated U.S. dollars. The move by the Chinese will allow oil exporting countries such as Iran, Russia, to bypass the United States sanctions by trading in yuan instead of U.S. dollars. This move is a direct result of the U.S. Proclivity to use the dollar as a weapon against countries that refuse to bend to the imperial will of the United States government. So what they are saying is that the United States government has been using the dollar and sanctions and petrodollar as a weapon against other countries. And they're tired of it. And this is why North Korean Kim Jong-un is in outrage like he is. Look, call him what you want to call him, right? Call him whatever you want to call him. But the fact of the matter is, he understands, right, to a large extent, what language this country speaks. Tell my brother Pooh, he got to stop being in here with us. Tell him he got to stop being in here with us. We need him here. You know, all of you that got muscles, we need you right here. All right. Ezekiel 28, let's walk slow. This is not the King James Version, but I want to give you the prophecy. All right, Ezekiel 28, check it out, Brother Muhammad. This is the MSG version. Okay, listen at this. The money has gone to your head. This is the Bible. The money has gone to your head. God's message came to me, son of man. Tell the prince of Tyre, this is what God, the master, says. Your heart is proud, going around saying, I am a God. This is America. I sit on God's divine throne. America has been ruling, Dr. Dodo, as if she is in fact God, right? Now, it goes on to say, I sit on God's divine throne, ruling the sea. You, a mere mortal, not even close to being a God, a mere mortal. Stop for a second. Hasn't she treated people like they were way below her? All throughout her years, we've seen this, like they were way below her. This is how she's treated people. As a matter of fact, when you go in foreign countries, the first thing they expect from you is that you're going to be arrogant, like many of your American leaders are. That's the first thing they expect. So it says here, trying to be a God. Look, you think you're smarter than Daniel? She thinks she's smarter than the rest of the world, folks. Right? Look, no enigmas can stop you. Your sharp intelligence made you world wealthy. You piled up gold, silver in your banks. America is the richest country in the world, hands down. Right now she is, right? But she used the backs and hard work of people that didn't have the power she had to come into her wealth. Now, it says, you piled up gold and silver in your banks. You used your head well, worked, did good deals, made a lot of money, but the money has gone to your head, swelled your head. What a big head. This is the Bible coming out of America. Isn't she arrogant like that? Don't you think this best describes her? All right, now look at this. Look at this right here. Look at this, William. Can you see this? Look. It says, therefore God, the master says, because you're acting like a God, pretending to be God, I'm giving fair warning. This is our ancestors writing this, family. Thousands of years before it happened. Now, for those of you that are going to say our ancestors didn't write this Bible, then I'll challenge you, right? If you want to say our ancestors didn't write this Bible, then I would challenge you, whoever wants to say this, right? Because we know now it's tied too much to our history for it not to have been that way. Now, what we should be saying is perhaps we don't fully understand the book. But this is the writing of our ancestors right here, Brother Jason. So look at this. It goes on to say this. I'm giving fair warning. I'm bringing strangers down on you, the most vicious of all nations. Now, whether Kim Jong-il is vicious or not, he barking like a vicious dog, ain't he? Look, it goes on to say, the most vicious of all nations, they'll pull their swords and make hash of your reputation for knowing it all. America, you know it all. But I'm going to bring vicious men against you, and they will destroy you based upon your reputation. They'll puncture the balloon of your God pretensions. They'll bring you down from your self-made pedestal and bury you in the deep blue sea. Will you protest to your accessions? You can't do that. I'm a God. To them, you're a mere mortal. They're a killing man, not a God. You'll die like a stray dog killed by strangers because I said so. This is the decree from God the Master. Now listen, why am I saying this? Because when we look at this scripture, we see the arrogance of the United States of America. Now, I live in this country along with y'all. But I wish that this country would have ruled from the premise of righteousness from the very beginning. But she didn't rule that way. And now that we understand how God and how nature operates, she has to pay. No crime will go unpunished. No crime will go unpunished. Look at this. I'm finishing up. You had everything going for you. Oh my gosh, Dr. Dodo. America had everything going for her. She had plenty of money. She had plenty of food. She had plenty of wealth. She had plenty of resources. She had plenty of water. She had plenty of veggies. She had everything going for her. Look at it. You were in Eden, God's garden. This was God's garden, right? You were dressed in splendor. Go down. I placed you on the mountaintop of God. You strode in magnificence among the stones of fire. From the day of your creation, you were sheer perfection. And then imperfection, evil was detected in you. In much buying and selling, you turned violent. You sinned.
Oh yeah. Is that in the Bible?
Huh?
Is that the Bible?
This is the Bible,
What
brother.
scripture is that?
Yeah, this is Ezekiel 28. Ezekiel 28, but it's the MSG version. It's the MSG version. It's Ezekiel 28, MSG version, right? So we're gonna keep dealing. And see, this is what I'm saying. The Bible has not been put in its proper context for us. So a lot of times when we read it, we can't apply it to what's happening because those that are bringing it forward don't deal with these scriptures, right? So now look at this. It says, your evil was detected in you. In much buying and selling, you turned violent, you sinned. Look, It says, I threw you disgraced off the mountain of God. Let's stop. This is prophetical here, saying that I will throw you off because of your disgrace off the mountain of God. Your beauty went to your head. Look, man, everybody want to look like an American. Everybody in the whole damn world want to look like an American. They want to bleach their skin. They want straight hair. They want everybody in the world want to look like they're from the United States of America. We want to dress like we're from the United States. All of us are guilty of it. It says, your beauty went to your head. You corrupted wisdom by using it to get worldly fame. That means you lied about the sciences. You lied about knowledge. You lied about understanding just to get worldly fame. Then it goes on to say, I threw you to the ground. Sit you sprawling before an audience of kings and let them gloat over your demise. Did you get that? Let them gloat over your demise. By sin after sin after sin, by your corrupt ways of doing business. Let's stop for a second. By your corrupt ways of doing business, you defiled your holy places of worship. Let's stop for a second. You won't find any place more corrupt than most churches, right? This whole system of churching, the way they do it, is filled with corruption. But listen to what the scripture says right here. It says, by your corrupt ways of doing business, sin after sin, you defiled your holy places of worship. So I set a fire around and within you. It burned you up. I reduced you to ashes. All anyone sees now when they look for you is ashes. a pitiful mound of ashes. Then at the bottom it says, all who once knew you now throw up their hands. They can't believe this happened. What happened to America? She was so great at one time. What happened? God got tired of her. The universe got tired of her unrighteousness, her disorder, Brother Mike, and the universe decided to make a correction. See, for those people that don't believe in universal order, they're going to see real quick that God is serious. And universal order has laws that are put in place to protect the universe over you.
Right.
Amen.
This is what we deal with. Look at this right here. Real quick. I'm finished. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So being that everything that's about to go happen, what's gonna happen after?
That's a good question. We're going to try to get as close to that as we can, okay? Just hold that right there. Let me keep going. So God's message came to me. Son of man, confront sin. Preach against it. Say, message from God, the master. Look, I'm against you, sin. I intend to be known for you. I truly am among you. They'll know that I am God when I set things right and reveal my holy presence. I'll order an epidemic of disease there. Listen, I'll order an epidemic of disease. AIDS ain't nothing. It says, I'll order an epidemic of disease there, along with murder and mayhem in the streets.
Right.
So that means that we got to expect murder and mayhem to increase in the streets, which we know is going to increase anyway, because that's the day that we're in.
Right.
Look, and it goes on to say, people will drop dead right and left. That means that you'll see a person on Marcus Avenue on Monday, and then on Wednesday he gone. You will see a person Thursday on Shock Boulevard, and then on Friday he ain't here no more. This is how fast things are going to be happening. This is how people are going to be dropping without explanation. Then it goes on to say this right here. Then they'll realize that I mean business. See, in order for God to show an arrogant man that he means business, somebody got to knock the hell out of him. Excuse my language. But this is how you show an arrogant man, a bully, that you mean business. Somebody got to go up to him and sock him. It says, then they'll realize that I mean business, that I'm God. No longer will Israel have to put up with their thistles and thorn neighbors. Now, who is Israel? That's us. Okay, good. I hope y'all got that. I hope y'all got that. Their thistle and thorn neighbors who have treated them so contemptuously, and they also will realize that I am, in fact, God. So what I'm telling you this, family, I'm almost finished. What I'm telling you is this. America is dying a slow death. And she's dying because of how she has treated us, right, over the years. This is why she's suffering the way that she's suffering. You can't treat people. It's estimated that during the Middle Passage, we lost how many people? 100 million. 100 million in the Middle Passage. It's estimated. Now, how you going to lose that many people and then think there's not going to be any repercussions? How you going to do the things that has been done throughout history in many nations and then think, look, okay, the Iraqi war was terrible, right? But now we know that they went in on a false pretense, right? No weapons of mass destruction found, right? You killed nearly 2 million Iraqis. Since the Iraqi war in Afghanistan, nearly 2 million of them have died. What do you think? That this is just going to pass? No, man, you got to pay for this. You got to pay for this. You ain't getting away with that. God, the Master says, when I gather Israel from the peoples among whom they've been scattered and put my holiness on display among them with all the nations looking on, then they'll live in their own land that I gave them, my servant Jacob. They'll live there in safety. They'll build houses. They'll plant vineyards, living in safety. Meanwhile, I'll bring judgment on all the neighbors who have treated them with such contempt, and they'll realize that I'm God. What I'm telling you is this is coming whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not, God is going to punish those that have treated us the way that we've been treated. Did you see what happened in St. Louis? How you going to say, I'm going to kill that MF, chase him down and kill him, and then get off as a police officer? How you going to do that? Did y'all see that?
No way.
In St. Louis, they shot the brother in 2011. Then the courts, the judge found him not guilty. And the police officer said he gonna kill this MF, planted a gun. Boy didn't have no gun, claimed that he was a heroin dealer, and killed him. And before he killed him, he said, I'm gonna kill this MF.
Still
Trying
don't
to
get
cover it
the
up.
Be real.
They said that, you said anything that you did wrong to see. Like, whatever, man.
They know that.
The point being, right, somebody gotta pay for that. Somebody, whether you like it or not, somebody gotta pay for it. And you can't continue to do these type of things and expect that you're not gonna have to pay. This is what I wanna share with you. Look, I'm almost finished. Let me get through this right here. Why? Jeremiah 51. It's still in the MSG, okay? There's more. Listen, God says more. Watch this. In other words, this little stuff you've been saying, you ain't seen nothing yet. Watch this. I'm whipping up a death-dealing hurricane against Babylon. Look at this now. God uses storms, tornadoes, and hurricanes to destroy the wicked, to destroy their resources, whether you like it or not. And yes, some of the righteous will get caught up with them. But the scripture says, there's more. God says, more. Watch this. I'm whipping up a death-dealing hurricane against Babylon. He calls it Hurricane Persia. Against all who live in the perverse land, I'm sending a cleanup crew into Babylon. Now, where's modern day Babylon?
America.
Right here. Look, they'll clean the place out from top to bottom. So God is telling you, when you see these natural disasters coming, that's his cleanup crew. Period. That's his cleanup crew that he's sending to destroy that nation that treated you the way that the nation's been treating you. They'll clean place up from top to bottom. When they get through, there'll be nothing left of her worth taking or talking about. Go ahead, brother. What you have?
So that's why all these hurricanes are happening and all these natural disasters happening in these major cities.
Say that. I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
So is that why all these hurricanes are coming and all these natural disasters are happening in the major cities?
In the major cities, because of the injustices that this nation has been imposing on other people in other nations since the beginning. And so now God is correcting that, right? Every nation throughout history, they lose their power shortly after they move away from God. Whether you want to talk about ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, you can trace all of their demise back to injustices. And this is why America is suffering like she's suffering now, because of the injustices that she's spreading across the nations. Go ahead.
How old is Earth?
Well, they estimate, and I can't say this for certain, but they estimate that the earth is about 4 billion years old. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches that the earth is about 66 trillion years old. So, I mean, it depends. I don't know that for certain. I have no way to support that. But, I don't know. Brother Kofi, Dr. Kofi is a geneticist. Any idea?
No.
Dr. Dodo, any idea?
Nobody knows.
No, nobody knows. Okay, I can accept that.
They have estimates.
Yeah, I can accept that. Yeah.
2017 years old.
So how old are you, brother? I'm gonna see if you got something. How old are you?
Fifth.
No, you should say you the same age as the earth. But go ahead, we'll let them go. Yeah, it said they won't miss a thing. A total final doomsday. Fighters will fight with everything they've got and no holds barred. They will spare nothing and no one. It's final and wholesale destruction. The end Babylon littered with the wounded. So what we're seeing here is that day is coming where Babylon, look, whether you like it or not, invaders are going to be on this land, destroying it. Whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. And so, but what we're looking at are all the things that lead up to that, right? So right now we're saying the dollar has no real value. It's not. It's dwindling, right? Then over the course of time, years from now, even gold will lose its value. These are the kind of things that are going to happen. But for now, if you have a choice between a dollar and gold, definitely gold.
Gold.
Babylon littered with wounded, streets piled with corpse. It turns out that Israel and Judah are not widowed after all, as their God of the angels' armies. I am still alive and well, committed to them, even though they filled their land with sin against Israel's most holy God. Get out of Babylon as fast as you can. Listen to this. Get out of Babylon as fast as you can. Run for your lives. Save your necks. Don't linger and lose your lives to my vengeance in her as I pay her back for her sins. So the major piece with that, it says, get out of her as soon as you can. Give up her ways. Yeah, give up her ways as soon as you can. Get rid of her ways. Give them back to her. It says, run for your lives. This is how serious it is. I'm finishing. This is almost there. I'm sorry, family. We did our best, but she can't be helped. We did our best, but the beast can't be helped, family. Cannot be helped. Babylon is past fixing. That means the point of help, Cole, we've gotten past that. She cannot be helped. She's so far gone. There are some people on this earth that are so wicked that ain't nobody going to turn them back. It's in their blood. It's in their DNA. Ain't no help for them. And we got to stop feeling sorry for them. Let them be who they are, whoever they are. Babylon is past fixing. Give her up her fate. Go home. The judgment on her will be vast. A skyscraper memorial of vengeance. I'm finishing up. Oh, Lord. Sorry. I'm sorry, y'all. Yeah, if y'all give me 10 minutes, I'll rush through this.
Jesus Christ.
But I really wanted y'all to get this. I really wanted to have this conversation with you. The reason why is because we need to start processing these things that are happening within the earth, right? And there's some things that are happening that I was going to talk about, but I'm not talking about today. I'm not going to get into it today. But there's some things that are happening that is right in line with this that are mind-blowing. But we got to tune ourselves back in with the earth, man, back in with nature, so that we can get the proper understanding of what's going on. See, just because somebody else make an assessment and says that a storm is going to hit that place, it doesn't have to hit that place. Just because somebody else make the kind of assessment, we put our faith in these meteorologists. Who are they? I mean, really, we put all our faith in them. You know, and our faith should be with this internal God, spirit that we possess. That's what our faith needs to be. And we need to stop looking at things the way that we've been taught and trained to look at things, because all of you should know by now that most of what we've been taught is a lie anyway. And so why do we continue to live based upon the lie? Why do we continue to do that? There's absolutely no need for us to continue to live based upon that. So what am I saying? Be patient with me here for a second. And I'll be finished. Yes, sir. Go ahead, brother.
Another thing, a hurricane don't have to hit directly here. What is done out in Texas and California and Florida, that's enough to devastate the whole country.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
So you don't have to hit here.
Sharpen the arrows. Fill the quivers. God has stirred up the kings of the Middle East. I'm sorry. Let me read that again. I read it wrong. It says, sharpen the arrows. Fill the quivers. God has stirred up the kings of the Middle East. God has stirred up the kings of the Medes, infecting them with war fever. Destroy Babylon. God's on a war path. I'm going to talk about this offline, okay? He's out to avenge his temple.
Right.
Give the signal to attack Babylon's walls. Station guards around the clock. Bring the reinforcements.
Right.
Set men in ambush. God will do what he planned. What he said he'd do to the people of Babylon. You have more water than you need. You have more money than you need. But your life is over. Your lifeline cut. In other words, this country, Babylon, has been enjoying the greatness of life forever. Plenty of food, plenty of resources while people around you starving. Plenty of money while people around you begging. But God is saying right here, your lifeline has been cut. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm your enemy, Babylon. Mount Destroyer, you ravager of the whole earth. I'll reach out. I'll take you in my hand. I'll crush you till there's no mountain left. I'll turn you into a grave pit. Brother Muhammad, no more cornerstones cut from you. No more foundation stones quarried from you. Nothing left of you but gravel. God's decree. Raise the signal in the land. Blow the shofar trumpet. Blow the shofar trumpet for the nations. Consecrate the nations for holy work against her. Call kingdoms into service against her. In other words, God is turning the whole world against Babylon. And round up horses, locusts, and hordes of horses. Consecrate the nations for holy work against her. The king of the Middle East, Medes, his leaders and people. All right, I'm going to stop here. And I'm going to basically summarize real quick.
You wanna go offline?
Huh?
You get offline?
Yeah. You
Okay,
can.
send me,
All right, so one of the things that we didn't talk about today, and is when you get a chance, read the book of Obadiah. It's only one chapter. It's only 21 verses. If you read the book of Obadiah, it's very specific who's being talked about here. Very specific.
why does Obadiah sound like obey? The root word obey is in Obadiah.
Maybe you can relate to that because your nature is obedience. I mean,
I don't know, I've been told I was a rebel, bro.
are you? Okay.
Oh, what? What's the level?
So anyway, it says, let me read this right here though, and we will be gone. It says, I'll show up the whole country as a sickening fraud. I'll show up the whole country as a sickening fraud, with dead bodies strewn all over the place. Heaven and earth, angels and people will throw a victory party over Babylon when the avenging armies from the north descend on her. God's decree. Babylon must fall. Compensation for the war dead in Israel. Babylon must fall. Compensation for the war dead in Israel. Let me zero this in a little bit. Now we understand that Israel left Jerusalem and went where? But before that, come on, when they left Jerusalem, where did Israel go? West Africa.
Yes.
Remember now, the history shows us now that the people that were in Egypt and Jerusalem region, they fled and they went into West Africa. What was West Africa called? What land? Negro land and Judah land. Negro land and Judah land. So in the Negro land and Judah land, this is Israel, right? Then most of us, many of us, were kidnapped and brought into Babylon, right? We're in Babylon now. This is what the book is laying out. So we know, look at this, it says, Babylon must fall. Compensation for war dead in Israel. God is compensating Babylon for her death that she's caused with Israel. 451. How we've been humiliated. Think about it.
What scripture is that?
This is Jeremiah.